All right, hello and welcome everyone to New Earth Consciousness. Tanya here, and with Sonja Ramirez, a transformational coach. Her business is Healing Hearts. Her website is sonjaramirez.com. We'll put it in the comments. And she's also about to birth a Soul to Soul podcast coming up. Sonia, I'm super excited about our conversation today. We're going to go deeper into what you and I spoke about privately. Yeah, so I am super excited to have you here. Thank you so much for taking the time with me to be with us today.
Yes, thank you for having me. When you and I first started just communicating, I just knew that there was something there.
Yeah, I
And
think
the more I learn about you, it's just the more things start to unfold. So thank you, Tanya, for having me. I appreciate you and all that you're doing.
thank you so much for that. I We met, I think, initially in Ultimate Coach space, Steve Hardison's space. I think you were also at Transcendence with Coach
Yes.
Otterai, who I love, and yeah, and so we've connected on Facebook. So you shared with me a really powerful story. It's in your bio about how you went through a powerful spiritual awakening through loss, essentially. I was wondering if you could share that story with the viewers so they know where you're coming from, how this all started for you.
Yes. So I get a lot of, I guess, assumptions that I grew up in in a home, like a religious home or a spiritual home, and that just was not the case for me. Um, I knew of God, but I didn't know God. My family would go, to church when there was a baptism or someone was, a funeral or someone got married, but that's all I knew. And in 2007, my sister passed away. And she was my best friend, and she was only 34. We're 5 years apart. And so it was very unexpected. And she had three children, my nephew and my nieces. They were 10, 12, and 14 when she passed. And she would always tell me, if anything ever happens to me, I want you to have my children. And I just remember always telling her, like, Diane, you're silly. Why are you talking like this? And then it happened in 2007. And their father was a meth addict, so he was a drug user. And he had mentioned many times to me that he's cleaned and that if I could just give him a chance, because he knew that my sister wanted me to have the kids. And I supported him. I was there for him. And unfortunately, that wasn't the case. And it came out 2 years later. And so during that time, my husband and I were newlyweds. We just gotten married a year ago. We had our daughter, and we had three teenagers, and they were going through so much. They went from California to Arizona, where our home is, and my youngest nephew at that time was 14, and he was trying to commit suicide. I had another nephew, a little older, 2 years older, who has a disability that's it's Crohn belly syndrome and has to wear diapers for the rest of his life. There was just a lot going on, and I had to figure out. I didn't even know how to put a kid in school, more or less disability, Social Security, having to deal with CPS, having to deal with just not only CPS Arizona, but California, getting to know my husband, getting to know myself as a wife. It was just a lot happening. And I remember, one day they were in school, all the kids were in school, and it was just an ordinary day. I wasn't surrendering. I wasn't in surrender mode. I wasn't asking God, please come save me. I need you. I wasn't there. So my spiritual experience happened very organically. And I was just finishing up taking my daughter a bath. And as I was walking into the kitchen, I heard or felt like, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. And I experienced the most unconditional love that I have never felt before. Like this love, this feeling was so pure, and the joy and the inner peace. I had chills from the top of my head to the bottom of my feet. And I was crying like I've never cried before, but it was a cry of joy. And I felt my sister. And that experience changed everything. I became a seeker. I was looking for God. And where do most people go when they just don't know? I ended up at a church. Um, and it was a very prophetic church. But during that time between, the experience, I noticed that something, I was different. Something was different. I became very empathic, which I didn't know that's what that was back then. I didn't know what was happening within me. I remember my husband and I going to Costco, and there was this young lady on the floor and an elderly lady over her. And I started to tear up, and I knew like I was feeling the older woman's sorrow, like her sadness. And I didn't quite understand it. And
Mm.
my husband, he noticed that I was tearing up, that I was tearing, and he asked me, "Are you okay?" And I said, "I'm fine. I was just remembering a moment with my sister." Like I lied to him because I didn't even know like what was happening. But I became that. I became very empathic. I very intuitive, and again just seeking. And when I went to this church, I ran into this remarkable young lady by the name of Veronica, who started to help me to listen, to be still, to pay attention to dreams. And she started introducing me to what I was feeling, because there were times where I would hear, "I need you to share this with," like, you
Mhm.
know, and it was what most people call a download. Like I would get this download for a stranger that I didn't even know. And I've always been pretty courageous, and just sharing the wisdom that was coming through to me to that individual. And at times would have them crying and looking at me like, "How did you know this?" But I would just tell them, I don't know where your belief is, but God asked me to share this with you.
I'm curious, can I ask you that how did you have the courage to because to me I'm just putting myself in your shoes and
Mhm.
imagining, let's just say you're standing in the grocery line and you're hearing that God's telling you, say this to this person, and you don't know who this person is. You hear stories about this, and I just think to myself, how do you is it just an like, is it because you are, what's the word, staying out of the way? Like, how does that happen? How is it that you're able to overcome what the typical brain would say, that is not a safe thing to do, right? Most people
Right.
would say like that's not a wise thing to do. Just keep your mouth shut, you know?
Right, right. So, okay, so I've been an entrepreneur since 2006.
Hmm.
And I love people. I'm an extrovert. I almost feel like that also had like gave me the space to just go up to a stranger. And not only that, but there was no denying within me that this was going to serve and help.
Yeah. It's just a deep, deep knowing, like it's unquestionable, right?
Right. I'll share with you. So as I mentioned, I was an entrepreneur
Mhm.
and I was in this business for 12 years, right? And it was sales. And I remember hearing the God nudge, like it's time to dissolve this business. And I went through a lot because I thought that was who I was. That was my identity. Like everybody knew, like I sold legal services. Everybody knew me as that. I knew me as that. But when God says it's time to go, it's time to go. This is it. It's time to go.
Mhm.
When I finally decided to listen and I decided to release and let go, I received a call. I don't know, probably 3 months after I made the decision from this young lady who was looking to make some extra money. And she called me up and, she asked to meet with me. And I told her, I said, I'm sorry, I'm no longer growing that business. And she's like, well, is there anyone else? So conversation just went on, got off the phone with her, and I heard, you need to call her back and meet with her. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like I'm having this conversation. Like, what are you talking about? You told me I had to dissolve this business. Meet with her. Meet with her. So I called the young lady back up and I told her, let's go ahead and meet. We met at a Starbucks. So here I am sitting with her, and she's just a very happy young lady. She has her little 2-year-old with her, and very happy, extroverted, reminds me a bit of me. And so we sit down, and tell her that she's not alone, that the pain she's going through, she's not alone, and that I'm with her. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm looking at this young lady like she's so happy. What?
Right.
Was, you know,
Doesn't look
like
like she's in
what?
pain.
Not at all,
Yeah.
right? And there I just look at her and I just share with her. I'm like, I don't know where your belief is in God, but God just asked me to share this with you. And she looked at me and I shared with her what God asked me to share with her. And she looked at me and she's like, God asked you to share that with me. And I said, yes. And she just started bawling.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up taking her outside and we were there sitting. And she was a daughter of a preacher. She was a Jehovah Witness and gone through some challenging times growing up in that space. And she said that it was a pretense. Like they would show up at church and she was like this perfect little girl with this perfect dress, smiling and doing the thing, but in home it wasn't the case.
Mm-hmm.
And that she ended up meeting a man and they got married and he was physically abusing her and she felt like he was going to take her life and the daughter was witnessing this and she finally got the courage to go share this with her parents and that they disowned her.
Oh, wow.
So she said, the God that you're speaking of, is the God that broke my family, is what got me kicked out and disowned from my family. So at that point, we were with each other probably for 2.5 hours, just having this conversation and me holding the space of love and sharing with her what God was asking me to share with her. And at the end, she was not the same woman that received the information at first, like the devastation. And I saw what that did for her. And we never talked about business.
Mhm.
The appointment wasn't about business. And that's something that I had to learn over and over again, just to listen. And that it's not about me, and that I am to like get out of the way.
Mhm.
And the more I started to listen, the more started to unfold. And she called me like a week later, just thanking me for sharing with her what I shared and her belief in God. And for me, God is the unknown, right? Like I was very religious at one point. Like when I started seeking and I found church and I started reading the Bible and studying the Bible, I became very religious. I thought my husband was going to hell, because my husband is an atheist.
Mhm.
I mean, I went through a very, very challenging time in my life because there was a point where I received download to read the Old Testament and to study it. And when I was reading it, I became very confused. And I didn't understand who this God was that I'm reading about because I remember reading he's a jealous God. He wants us to fear him. The killing of innocent women and children. I didn't understand who this God was because the God that I had a relationship with before I even stepped into a church through the spiritual experiences and everything that unfolding before I ever even stepped into a church, it just didn't feel aligned and I didn't. And so now I'm questioning and I'm going to the church that I was recruiting for, asking questions. And the answers that were receiving didn't feel true. Like they didn't feel aligned. I was just told that's the enemy. The enemy causes confusion. And I swallowed that pill and
Mhm.
I kept showing up and sitting there, but I felt like a hypocrite. I didn't feel that it was aligned with me anymore. And I heard it's time just to be still. So then I stopped going to church and I really started to pray and I really started to listen. I started to meditate. I started to go within. I started having conversations and listening and learning. And I just started to unfold the conditioning and the programming that I received being in a religious community. For me, God, you can't fit God in a box. I am a follower of Jesus. I wear a cross to represent who I am. And I also practice sound healing at a Buddhist temple.
Mhm.
It's like, and that's been probably the biggest challenge for me is releasing that religious conditioning. And I still feel it at times, but my awareness of it is so broad that I see it and I just breathe into it. And I allow God to direct me with every step that I take. My coaching, I thought I was going to be a minister. I thought I was going to be a preacher. Like,
Mm.
yes. And I just kept listening. And the more I listened, the more I learned, and the more I got to discover who I am. And I realized that there is no separation between you and I, God and I. We are all one.
Yeah.
We all are mirrors of each other. And to love unconditionally, to love thy neighbor, I understand, you know, I understand this book more than ever now.
Mm.
I read it differently.
Mm.
Like, and there's so much great teachings in it. To love thy neighbor, that's to love all. And I am so grateful that I woke up from it because I wouldn't have experienced what I'm experiencing now at the Buddhist temple. I would have never walked through that door.
Yeah.
I would have never found the community, the ultimate coach community. Like there's so much that unfolded within. And within that community is when I started feeling a lot of the religious conditioning because you have people from all walks of life there, different beliefs, different spirit, like the spirituality. There's just so much that I'm grateful for that I was able to wake up because I've experienced so much
Yeah.
that I wouldn't have.
Yeah. Yeah. So that you talk about in your bio this, transforming or transmuting pain into growth. And I'm curious, like, how do you help women deal with what it is that they're going through? I mean, you mentioned the woman that you helped. Sorry, I have flies in my room that are flying everywhere. It's driving me crazy. I'm like, where's my fly swatter? I live on a goat farm, so summertime, it's like it's all about the flies. Um, yeah, so how my experience of you is really about being in the present moment and being allowing someone else to be completely vulnerable and yet held within a safe space so that person can begin to actually touch into that the truth, which is often very, very exposing, very vulnerable. So I'm wondering, like, how do you guide someone who, let's say, is having a very difficult time, they're struggling in their marriage or with their teen or whatever it is that they're going through, or maybe they're having serious financial difficulties, or I'm curious, like, one, how do you, what are some of the topics, or is it like totally open-ended and women can come to you with whatever that there is they're going through? How do you guide them from that that space of vulnerability to stepping into their own light, their power? Like,
Mhm. Yes,
share with us,
I
like,
get
yeah,
it. So, love, unconditional love. For me, love is, and it is the only thing that's real. For me, I feel that to my core, and I am that. So when they step into this office, can't even explain it, but you feel that. There's so much that I've gone through myself that, and I am very vulnerable with the things that I've gone through. And those that work with me are called to me.
yeah.
It's the craziest thing because I am that. I am looking at a younger version of me it through my healing journey, if that makes any kind of sense. Like,
Sure. Yeah.
and so though I know that like before, like in here, in this room, I we're not alone. Like, I feel that I am very divinely guided in the work that I do. And the connections that are made in this room, the experience is hard to describe in words.
I understand what you're saying. It's love. People, that word unfortunately gets overused and it gets diminished, right? All you need is love. Like, you're like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, stop boring me. Like, let's cut to the chase. What is it? Like, there's all this like the chatter, but it's really, love heals, right? Love in itself heals. Love creates the miracles. It is a tangible, experiential, when that is the intention, like through and through and through, which is what the space that you hold for somebody. I believe that our true purpose here on earth, for everyone, is to actually to be in connection with the divine and to allow the divine to live through us here on earth. And everything else is just noise, it's just a distraction. So I'm just sharing with you, like, my experience of you is like someone who is a catalyst that somehow, when someone comes to work with you and you're just holding that space of however love is meant to guide in the moment, which is why you can't explain it. You can't say, well, first we're going to talk about this and then we're going to do this and then we're going to do this, like a therapist would. Like, we're going to do your intake and we're going to
Yeah,
we're going to tell you about your history, and you know
yeah,
there's actual like an embodiment, presence, love, your devotion can be felt. You can feel the depth of somebody's devotion just by being in their presence. I mean, I've had experiences like that where when you can't explain it, you almost want to fall to that person's knees because you're just like, I'm in the presence of something someone that's really has walked the path and has holds so much
Mm,
love that you just your ego cannot your
mm.
ego can't hang on to itself, right? Like we walk around like hanging on to our stories and who we think we are, like the woman that you're saying, she looked happy, she looked this and that, she was really, her ego's really good at holding up the front so that the rest of the world could see and see her in a certain light, but it wasn't really the truth, you know? And so you, it seems to me that because of your relationship with the divine, you're able to say what needs to be said, not because it's Sonia, the great healer. It's like you being in humble service to something that's much, much greater that you know is real.
Yes.
Huh?
And that's it, what you just said. There's a there's a knowing, like there's a knowing within me. There is no doubt that there is something bigger than us. And when we give ourselves permission to release the stories, the programming, the conditioning, the expectations, the attachment, and just allow ourselves to detach within that beautiful space of the unknown, then we become limitless in love, like in joy, in peace and creativity and play, just all of it. And I feel like we are all activators when we get to that. And it's not a it's not a destination. It's the journey. Like I still have days where it's hard to get out of bed, right?
Yeah.
There are days where doubt seeps in, but my heightened awareness allows space for grace.
Mm.
Yeah, because we still have that, like we are, for me, I feel like this is a knowing of the unknown, but we are spirits having a human experience. Right? Like, and that's almost like a knowing within me. And so everything I experience is for me to grow me so that I can discover who I am underneath the bodysuit. And the more I learn and become, I share. And as an activator and an igniter, that's what I am that no matter where I am,
Mhm.
whether I'm with my children, whether I'm with my husband, whether I'm at the grocery store with a stranger at the corner, I am who I am. And I am no different than you. And that's when my clients are in the space, I am you and you are me. There is no separation between us. I'm just here to shine the flashlight within you. That's all I'm here to do. There's nothing special about me. I just may be a little further ahead in the journey, but I'm here to show you that you have it all within you. My my client, I shared with her my document. And a document is, well, I call it my blueprint. I don't call it a document, I call it my blueprint. And I read it to her, and she said, looked at me and she's like, "Do you think this is possible for me?" And I looked at her and allowed her, like, just to see me with tears in my eyes as I'm feeling it now. And I look into her soul through her eyes and I share with her, you already are.
Hmm.
You already are that. And there's a knowing within me. I'm not just sharing this to make her feel good. I know this to be true for her. And when I look her in the eye and I tell her that, she feels that. And it becomes a knowing within her.
Hmm.
And that's where the work begins,
Yeah.
is peeling back the layers, getting her to see that her thoughts are creating her life, and how we can reprogram that subconscious mind, reprogram how she speaks to herself, how she sees herself, but bringing that to light, releasing those limited beliefs and creating new beliefs, the blueprint.
Yeah.
And it's not just saying it, it's feeling it, it's believing it, it's doing mirror work, it's looking in the mirror. And I actually do this with them because it's the feeling of believing and knowing that brings it to life. These are not just affirmations of you looking in the mirror, it's you feeling and knowing who you are once we remove the old stories. And I know it to be true because I did it. I did it. I did the work. I continue to do the work. My husband, it's like when you change, everything changes. This investment that you're making is not just for you. Oh my, no. This investment that you're making will enhance the relationship that you have with your husband, that you have with your children, your mom, your dad, and everyone around you. Because when you give yourself permission to show up as God created you to show up, everything will change. The way you see life, the way you see yourself. Every relationship will be recreated. And I know this because I did it. My relationship, I've been married for 17 years with my husband, and the first 5 years were, oof, but we have the most beautiful relationship. And I know it's because I created that when I stepped into taking responsibility, looking in the mirror. When I started to work on me, it gave him permission to look within himself. And so we grow together and we grow as individuals and parents and all the things. And our children are also, wow. Um, in the Bible, it says, what is it? Like a tree that bears good fruit. Like you can tell
Mm.
by
Oh, yeah,
the
right.
fruit of the
The,
tree.
yeah, the good works. Yeah,
Yes,
it's
yes,
yeah,
yes. And that's what that is. But it all starts with us saying yes, yes, surrender.
yeah, and
And
and it's that unknown piece. Like that's the piece I feel like is the most important thing that one of the most important things that you said is that this any place in our life that we want to expand in or anything that we want to overcome, we have to be willing to go into the unknown because that's where it is. That's what you are desiring is in the unknown, right? So I just had to say that because that's, you know, you start traveling through that mystery. And then when you said it's like, and then we invite grace and we start a spiritual journey, an adventure, a discovery, we're transformed, but it can never be in the known. At least as far as I can see, it can never be in the
yeah,
known 100%. There's always some part that's like, okay, time to, it's like when you got the prompting from God to, okay, it's time to step away from your business. Like, why? But it's doing so well. Right? Yeah.
yeah. See, and that's people tend to get a little nervous about that
Yeah. Yeah.
because when you start to grow, like spiritually, or just you start to grow, right? Like my husband's an atheist and he's such a beautiful man. I see God within him. Like I see that, right? But he has, wow, just grown and transformed. And the more you start to wake up, you will make some people feel uncomfortable,
Mm,
right? Like you'll just make some people feel uncomfortable because you're mirroring a part of them that they're not ready for yet.
mm.
Just by being, not even by, right? It's just by being. It's just
I
by
think-
you showing up. It's just you and who you're being will make them
Yeah.
feel uncomfortable, right? And that's okay. And that's okay. But sometimes it can be sad,
Mm-hmm.
especially when it's someone very close to you that is on a different path, right? Like I have friends that are religious, or yeah, I still consider them friends and I still love them even more so now, regardless of our differences. But it can be sad at times when the judgment's coming at you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But then there's the awareness that it's not you. When there's a knowing, like that awareness, then you can love them where they're at and just accept that it is what it is. And that's the acceptance. It's loving my husband today, not knowing what tomorrow looks like, but loving him today in every moment and being okay with tomorrow.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautifully said. I am so grateful for your time, and I really my prayer is that those that are watching this see that there's so many layers. It's multidimensional. Everything that you've been speaking about, um, that I feel that when we choose to be in presence and listening to someone, there's activations, there's something that's getting stirred within the other person. And so that's my hope, that for all of you that have watched this and are receiving this, that on a soul level that you're receiving what Sonja's transmitting here. And Sonja, I'd like for you to share with the audience what are the different ways that people can work with you? What do you have as offerings?
So, if you feel called to, right? If you feel called to, you can find me. It's ramirez.com. It's SonjaRamirez.com. There is a 45-minute. Those that are watching, actually, I'll give them a 2 hour gifted session. So instead of the 45 minute, I'll give them a 2 hour gifted session. And I also do sound facilitating. So if you're here in Arizona, the coaching can be done through Zoom. So if you don't live here in Arizona, that's quite all right. Though I love to have my clients come in. But if that's not possible, that's okay. We could do a Zoom, have a Zoom conversation. I also do sound facilitating as well. So if you live in Arizona, I host different. I have different locations. I have a Buddhist temple in Mesa. I'm doing one in Scottsdale. Um, so the locations vary. But if you go to sonjaramirez.com, you'll see where you can find me on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn. I host women's retreats. But the next retreat won't be until May of 2026.
Okay,
So yes.
awesome. Great. Well,
But
thank you so much for being here. Maybe I'll get to meet you in person someday. My mother lives in Tucson, so I often come.
oh, great.
My kiddo goes to
Yes.
the U of A. Um, but I
Mm,
would love to come to one of your sound healings maybe sometime. I
yes.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Sonia. Thank you
I
so.
was going to just tell you, thank you for having me and,
Oh yeah.
thank you for the space that you create.
Yeah, absolutely. I just, may this continue to ripple out as we all connect and learn from one another, that we're able to grow in our own consciousness and our own awareness, and, you know, bring down heaven on earth, and make the world a better place. So, yeah,
Yes.
thanks to everyone watching. Please like and subscribe.
Yes. Thank
Sure to
you.
go to Sonia's website, check her out, and sending so much love until next time. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.